Hello, I'm Sean Hoddy and welcome to another edition of Kids Community Lockdown Aikido Martial Arts. So we always start the session with a nice ray, which is a bow, and we do our exercises. So ich, ni, sun, shi, go, rock, sit, chach, ni, sun, shi, go, rock, sit, chach. Keeps going. Ich, ni, sun, shi, go, rock, sit, chach, ni, sun, shi, rock, sit, chach. Legs apart and we stretch. Each go through. Ni, sun, shi, go, rock, sit, hutch, ni, sun, shi, go, rock, sit, hutch, circles. Ich, ni, sun, shi, go, rock, sit, hutch, ni, sun, shi, go, rock, sit, hutch. To the side. Ich, ni, sun, shi, go, rock, sit, hutch, ni, sun, shi, go, rock, sit, hutch, ich, ni, sun, shi, go, rock, sit, hutch, ni, sun, shi, go, rock, sit, hutch. There are knees. Ich, ni, sun, shi, go, rock, sit, hutch, ni, sun, shi, rock, sit, hutch. Now waists. Ich, ni, sun, shi, rock, sit, hutch, ni, sun, shi, go, rock, sit, hutch. Wiggle our fingers. Now our thumbs. From here, little shake. And we make out we're grasping. So grasping a gi, so we're pulling someone in. Shoulders. We go forward and backward. Forward. Then we rotate the arms. Then we move forward. We go backward again, making sure you don't hit any lights or furniture. And then we stretch. So we stretch up. And then we come down. And we're going to stretch again. And down. So we're stretching up onto our toes. And push, 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 push. Really make yourself tall. And from there. So from there, right foot in front of left. Left foot faces forward. Heel down to the floor or the mat. Come forward, support your weight. And now we just stretch. And from here we change. So the other side. Rear foot facing forward. And then we just stretch. And you feel this stretching your calf muscles and Achilles tendon. So just support your weight at the front and stretch. From here now, hamstrings. So head on the floor, toes in the air. From here, touch the underside of your foot. So you go over the sole of your foot. And then we change. We go the other side, so sole of the foot. And from here, above the elbow joint, and we just stretch the shoulders. And from there, we take the hand blade down the centre of the back, push on the elbow, and we stretch that way. And we change the other hand. And then from here, we stretch. From here, nicely balanced. So feet shoulder width apart. And we look down. Ich to the middle, ni, look up, sun, shi, go, rock, sit, hutch, turn, ni, sun, shi, go, rock, sit, hutch, ich, ni, sun, shi, go, rock, sit, hutch. So over the past few weeks we've been covering Unsuku, which is foot movements, Tendo Kawundu, hand and foot movements, we've been looking at our Jo techniques, which is staff, and we've been looking at sword techniques and some basic Aikido throws. So we're going to start off with Unsuku. So Unsuku, we start feet shoulder width apart, nicely balanced. We move forward with our left foot first. So it's ich, ni, san, shi, go, rock, sich, hutch, and we come back to the neutral point. And from here, we do our sideways movements. So we start moving to the left. So that's ich, ni, san, shi, go, rock, sich, hutch. With these movements, we always finish shoulder width apart. And when we're going through the movements, we should be shoulder width apart. We don't want our feet coming together, because if our feet come together, you're off balance and you're easily thrown. So next movement, we're making out there's a cross on the floor. So we're turning into each corner of this cross. I'll come forward slightly so I've got more room. So from here, so it's ich, ni, san, shi, out to the corner, go, rock, sich, hutch, back to neutral. Then from Unsuku, we naturally would go into Tandoku Undo. So Tandoku Undo is hand and foot movements. And both Unsuku and Tandoku Undo are practiced at every session of a Tamiki Aikido class or a Shotokan Aikido class. Much the same. All derived from the system of Aikido from Kenji Tamiki. Okay, so we start with our left hand coming above our head, so it's ich, ni, san, shi, go, rock, sich, hutch. Then we repeat, I, ni, san, shi, go, rock, sich, hutch. Next one, ich, ni, san, shi, go, rock, sich, hutch, ni, san, shi, go, rock, sich, hutch, ich, ni, san, shi, go, rock, sich, hutch, ni, san, shi, go, rock, sich, hutch, ich, ni, san, shi, go, rock, sich, hutch, ni, san, shi, go, rock, sich, hutch, ich, ni, san, shi, go, rock, sich, hutch, ni, san, shi, go, rock, sich, hutch. And then we can go on to practice our Tekatana movement where we're using Tsukiyashi. So Tsukiyashi is sliding the feet. So we'd start in right, we're just moving forward. We'd have a partner and we'd be staying the same distance away. Just sliding the feet, keeping centre. And from here, we change to the other side. This is when we first start, we keep it pretty basic, moving up and down. But as we get better, we move around the mat and we change the speed that we go. So you could start off slowly and then accelerate in, just to make your partner move. Okay, well, there are other exercises you can do. So we can go into reverse posture, pushing from the hip, dropping our weight, and we're pushing here. So we're getting the power coming up the arm, so it's a Tekatana type arm. We haven't got a straight arm, we've got a slightly bent arm. And we're pushing from this hip, so push, push, push. And we're trying to move our partner, and we change. And we push, so we're not pushing with the shoulders, we're pushing with the hips. So your posture should be upright. If you find you're leaning, you're using shoulder power. So we want our hips. And change. Just get that power and change. We can also focus. So from here, I'm going to focus on a spot. So let's make out that someone's chin there. So I focus on the chin, just touching that chin. Then that extra drive, pushing through, would throw them. So from here, the extra drive will throw them. Very hard to show without anyone on the end of the technique. So just practice getting that correct distance. We're not smashing into their chin to cause injury. We're fitting in for the throw. Okay, so the last few weeks we've been doing our Jo Kata. We've been building it into sections. So we started with 6 count Jo Kata and we've worked our way up to 21 count. So just to go over what a Jo is a 4-foot staff, and within this kata we're using this to thrust, strike behind, or block, so you can use both ends of the weapon. We also, in this system of Aikido, which is our system of Aikido, is called Tamiki Aikido, also known as Shuriken Aikido, we use this as a yari. So a yari is a spear. So if you can imagine you've got a blade on the end of this, and this will be to stab. And in our formal kata, which are forms, we use this as a yari when we're throwing people with the staff as well. It's used as a yari. But the purposes of today, we're using the staff as a Jo, two-ended weapon. So when we use a Jo, we stand in left posture and we start nice and comfortably. Now this is far too long for my house. I end up hitting the ceilings and lights. So I'm going to change this into something smaller. So we just imagine we've got a base to this. And we go through these movements fairly slow. So first of all, Jo comes up and it's ich, so we come off line. So if you think on a cross, then I'm off line again, ni. So I'm blocking, and from here I'll strike sun. So that's to the temple, come down the end, chi, blocking from behind. Now I turn, go. So this is on the inside of my thigh, and this will be down to the floor blocking. Rock, back to neutral, then we keep going. Sich, this time, so same sort of movement. Hutch, so we're to here. Then, as I swing this round, I go back. And I'll be kneeling onto my left knee. Then from here, I come up, moving forward. So I'm coming under the chin and I'm thrusting. From here now I turn, ich. So I'm back into neutral posture. Then from here I go forward. Ni, san, come there. Shi, then I turn. Go, so this time it's inside of this thigh. And I'm blocking down. Then from here I turn. Rock. Sich, so offline again, so I'm thrusting. Sich. Then from here I strike to the temple. Hutch. Then I turn. Ku. Then I step up. Niju. Ich. So go over those once more. So from here, ich, ni, san, shi, go, rock, sich, hutch, ku, Ju. Ju ich, ju ni, ju san, ju shi, ju go, ju rock, ju sich, ju hutch, ju ku, ni ju ich. So that is the 21 count Jo Kata, and hopefully you can follow that. So from there then we started to work using a sword. So a sword is called a katana. We use a replica sword, which is a wooden sword in our practice, which is called a bokken or bokto. Two names. So when we hold a sword, left hand, if we look, is just shy of the handle. And the handle is called ska. The right hand comes up to the guard, the tsuba, and we're holding fairly loose, as though we're holding eggs. So if you hold an egg and you squeeze too tight, it's going to crack. So we want to be holding the sword in that way. Kasaki, which is the tip, points top of the chest. So it's chudan, mid-height. When we cut with a sword, we don't want our fingers out, because if someone cuts you and they cut your finger off, you're going to quickly drop this sword. So these fingers are fairly relaxed. So we're not gripping this one really tight. It's fairly relaxed but not pointy. When we cut, it's like wringing a towel out. So we straighten, we don't want to be here, we want to be straightening our grasp. And that's where it becomes strong, at the downward point of the attack. So when the attack finishes, that's when your cut becomes strong. So, obviously again, because of the height of my ceilings, I'm having to use this soft dough. But hold it the same. So first cut is Aiuchi Men. So Aiuchi Men is a straight cut. So if you can imagine they're coming in straight, and from here I'm coming up, and I cut. So when I'm cutting, I don't want to be here because it takes so long to travel. So that's up, cut. And if you look, this is when I tighten my hands out. So from here, cut. And we went from Aiuchi Men, which is a straight cut. They're doing a straight cut again, and we went to Hidari Men. So Hidari Men, I'm moving off line. So from here, cut. So again, I'm cutting to their head, and I'm watching them all the time. And from here, we move back. So one more movement of that. So from here, cut. And we're coming back. Then we went to Migi Men, and Migi Men, we go forward with our left foot. So from here, we cut. We're not leaning, we're in nice upright posture. Change our feet, come back round, and back to go. So once again, as we cut, come off line, watch what they're doing, change our feet, and we come back. And the next technique we done was a thrust, so that's called a ski. So from here, what they're doing, they're going to come into attack, and as they come in, I thrust towards their neck, move forward. Optional, you can turn and just cut their forearm, and they're coming back. So I'll come right the way back here so we can see from the, or to help the camera angle. So as they come into attack, I thrust thrust forward. So I'm not doing this, I'm coming up. Then 1, 2, turn, back we go. Then we moved on to our do cut. So a do cut is across the body. And we're aiming for the arterial system under the armpit. So if they're cutting, what I'm doing, I'm cutting under that armpit and then coming through. So I'm not doing this, it comes from above my head, and then the tip does the work. So that comes under the armpit, so the tip's sharp, Kisaki is sharp, under the armpit, taking out the arterial system, and we just go forward and we turn. But very important that it comes from above the head with a cut. So we're not doing this. See this done a lot, it's weak. This isn't where we're at. You want that cut, that's strong, that's solid into the armpit, moving forward. So once again, from above the head, cut into the armpit, moving forward, turning, facing our opponent, and we come through. So I'm going to add one more technique on today. So this is called Koti Nuki Koti. So what your opponent's doing, they're going to attack this wrist. So I'll show you the attack. So what they would do, they would come off line and just cut through that wrist. And when we practice this, what we do an exercise where when they cut, to make them go through, we just take their hand away as they cut. So from here, this is what they'd be doing. They'd be cutting off line, so they have to come round slightly. And we're remaining in right posture as we cut. And what I'll be doing for the defence, as they cut to here, all I'm doing, I'm using my hips to make the deflection. I'm not looking for a deflection with a sword. My hips just turn and that creates a deflection. This is above my head, then I cut their wrist. So if you look, I'm not actually physically trying to block, I'm just moving there. And then we cut. So from here, deflecting on that side, but all I'm doing it because I turn as I cut, it knocks their sword, and what that does, that makes them wobble slightly. So there, now I cut. So once again, from here, as they approach the cut, feet come back, and I cut. And of course we do that all in one action. So it's up, cut, finish. So it's about coordinating all the movements together. One, finish. So Kaishimen. So when we practice Kaishimen, our opponent is doing a straight cut. What we're using the flat of the blade. So as I step forward, the flat of the blade is going on the outside of my body. Very important that as we move, it's the flat of the blade that deflects the blow. If you use that, you're going to blunt your blade. And that's very, very important if you're using a bladed weapon as a fighting system. Also, if you blunt your blade, you've got problems. So, from here, as they cut, I would step forward to here, using the flat of the blade. Grip quite loose, as I've said before. This is why we hold the sword as though we're holding eggs. Then from here I'd come round and I would cut towards their temple. And again, tightening up. Now, as I said before, I haven't got the ceiling height to swing this correctly, but we can get the gist of the movement. So from here, as as they cut, I come forward, and then from here, I cut into them. I would change, and then come back round. So, 1, 2, cut, change, back round. So as they cut towards me, I move forward with my left, and I'm coming off line to here. So I'm moving out. This is deflecting their blow away, and from here I come in and I cut. So very important that we hold this in a loose grip. And if you look what I'm doing, I'm not really taking the sword too far. So that sword stays roughly in this position. So I'm just tilting on that, on the skull. Yeah, just tilting on the handle. So from here, 1, cut. Yes, so. And it comes from above the head again, not swinging. So we're here and it comes up and cut. Change, back we go. So once again, moving off line, 1, up, cut. So I'm off line, change my feet, round we go. Normal classic finish. So the last technique, which is really a series of various moves, Hasso Waki Gamai. So from here I'll be pushing my opponent. So I'll be going 1, 2. So the last technique in the Tachi Tachi set we've been doing is called Hasso Waki Gamai. And Hasso Waki Gamai, what I'll be doing, my opponent's here and I'll be pushing 1, 2, 3. So I'll be pushing my opponent. So I'll change because obviously I haven't got the ceiling height to practice. So from here, we're moving 1, 2, 3. Last one is a menacing type of movement. They go into a position where they are going behind. And what I'm doing, I'm coming up to here. And the sword, let's just get the sword going. The sword is held slightly back. If you hold upright, the elbow comes out. And the problem with the elbow coming out, it will get cut off. So we don't want to be like so. Don't want to be really tight, but we want the sword just tilting back slightly for the defence. So from here, my sword's tilting back. They're going to cut to this thigh. Let me go forward a little bit. So they're going to cut to this thigh. And what I do, I just cut straight down. And that's a block. Then they come under and they're going to go to this badge, this side, the Shoshinkan badge. So from here, I move. I'll come forward slightly so I've got room. Then they're going to go for the JAA badge. So they come under to stab here. I move. Then they're going to cut to my temple. And this is why I say hold the sword as though we're holding eggs, because from here I need to do a strong block and lock these arms out. So I'm blocking this part of the sword, and that's the flat of the sword, not the blade. So then from there they're going to come round to attack, and as they do that, I attack them. So once again, so from here I'm pushing. 1, 2, push. come up, I move forward, so I've got the room. So from here, they're cutting to my thigh, so as they cut, I block, and I'm taking my thigh out of the way. So the only way they can attack me now is come under the sword. So they come under, and they're stabbing, they're doing a ski. So I'm controlling that here. And from the other side, I do the same, control. Then they're going to cut to this temple, I block. They cut to the other temple, and I cut them.